Welcome to this explainer. Okay, if you've ever found yourself staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m. wondering what is the point of it all, you are definitely not alone. Today, we are unpacking a really fascinating, highly structured existential framework. Specifically, we're looking at the worldview Yanzi Sengmyun Chanyen Kwangjaori Daoyu Shufeng, that is, originating from the founder of Life Chanyan, Guide Shufeng. It's a deep dive, so let's just get right into it. We're opening with a completely blunt, almost jarring assertion straight from Su Feng. Life, for all living things, is a tragedy. Wow, right? He really doesn't sugarcoat the human condition. Think about it. When you zoom in on a single mortal lifespan, it's painfully short. Whether you're an emperor or a commoner, a billionaire or totally broke, you're really just a hurried passenger. It's a heavy way to start, for sure, but it perfectly frames the massive philosophical problem we're trying to solve today.
And this tension is just brilliant. On one hand, you have the eternal, endless cycle of nature. Spring flowers, autumn fruits, ancient streams that literally just keep flowing forever. A majestic, unending loop. But then, contrasted against that eternal backdrop, there's us, transient humanity. Our human journey is framed as this brief, fleeting dream where we blossom and then, well, we quickly wither, all while the sky above remains beautifully, completely unchanged.
To really drive that transience home, the text uses this incredibly evocative imagery. Life flies like a colt crossing a stream. You're young and vibrant yesterday, and then suddenly old and faded tomorrow. Even those moments we cherish the absolute most, our earthly happiness, past tenderness, they pass by like rushing water. Any happiness that momentarily graces our days is really just a fleeting cloud. It's so hard to hold on to, isn't it? It just slips right through our fingers the second we try to grasp it. Now, here is an absolutely crucial semantic distinction that Shufeng requires us to make. First, there's lowercase life. That's our short, mortal journey, the colt crossing the stream. But then there is uppercase life, and this represents our eternal spiritual essence. According to this framework, the profound tragedy of our existence actually happens when we confuse these two completely different things. We end up spending all our precious energy desperately clinging to the lowercase life while entirely neglecting our eternal uppercase life.
Because eventually, the earthly comedy ends. Our mortal time runs out, the flowers die, the final curtain closes. And that forces us to confront this massive, looming question: what is the value and meaning of life? All that stuff we stressed over, the wealth we tirelessly chased, the social status we desperately tried to maintain, what was the point of it all? What do we actually gain in the end when the clock stops ticking?
Part 1. The Search for Eternity, Seeking the Eternal Shore. Now, Zui Feng absolutely acknowledges the monumental efforts of past spiritual giants. We're talking Jesus Christ, Shakyamuni Buddha, Lao Tzu, Prophet Muhammad. They were absolutely crucial in leading humanity out of a long dark night and bringing in the light. But central to Zui Feng's worldview is the claim that even these great sages didn't provide a completely clear, universally actionable roadmap. Their guidance was profound, no doubt, but humanity is clearly still struggling to find a definitive, step-by-step path out of this mortal trap. So, despite thousands of years of historical effort, a deep tragedy remains. Shufeng actually asserts that heaven is not far away at all. It's literally right in front of us. Yet we just can't see it. And the crazy thing is, this isn't just a tragedy for the confused or the deeply lost. It's actually a source of immense pain even for the clear-minded. The people who intuitively sense there's something more profound out there, but still just can't quite grasp it. Which brings us to a really pivotal crossroads. If the old maps were incomplete, where is the best path leading to heaven today? If we've all been wandering through this fog of temporary distractions, what is the actual practical roadmap out of the tragedy?
Part 2. Defining true value. What truly matters?
Su Feng draws a very hard line here between two distinct paths. On one side, you have temporal pursuits. This is racking our brains over temporary losses and gains, anxiously exhausting ourselves just to hold on to earthly possessions that are inevitably going to fade away anyway. He sees this as a massive waste of our best years. On the other side is true value. The actual purpose of our mortal journey isn't to acquire things at all, but to sublimate, to elevate and refine the absolute quality of our uppercase life. And to achieve this elevation, he introduces this fascinating concept called the non-material structure. You can kind of think of it almost like your spiritual DNA.
The ultimate goal in the mortal world is to refine and perfect this invisible framework. And this doesn't just mean being a generic good person. It involves a systematic purification of your consciousness, shedding earthly attachments and aligning with universal laws. It is the absolute prerequisite for escaping the transient tragedy and finally attaining true immortality.
Part 3. Debts, Missions, and Heaven. The Mechanics of Life. Let's see how this actually works.
Okay, so our spiritual essence doesn't just randomly appear on Earth by accident. It is actively pulled down by a metaphysical force Xufeng calls the gravity of life. This gravity dictates exactly why an individual consciousness is drawn into a physical body for this fleeting trip. It's a cosmic weight pulling the eternal essence into the temporal realm based on past actions and spiritual needs. It's a really interesting way to look at it.
And this gravitational pull actually falls into two distinct categories. For the vast majority of us, the general public, the gravity pulling us to Earth is made up of debts. We're here to pay something off, to resolve past imbalances. But for a select few special figures, the gravity is actually a mission. They aren't pulled down by what they owe. Instead, they're drawn here to accomplish something highly specific for the greater good of humanity.
So, how do we escape this gravitational cycle? Well, the framework lays out a strict 3-step progression. First, you have to actively pay off your mortal debts in the human world, essentially clearing your karmic slate. Second, you must align your life to live by the greatest creator's will, flowing with the natural order rather than constantly fighting against it. And by mastering those two things, you accomplish step 3, successfully laying the rock-solid foundation required to ascend.
Because in Xufeng's doctrine, heaven isn't just one vague, singular place. If you follow those steps, you ascend to highly specific realms to enjoy long-lasting joy. He names them as the 1,000-year world, the 10,000-year world, and ultimately the Elysium world. These are tiered levels of spiritual existence where the perfected non-material structure truly thrives, and that is exactly how the mortal tragedy finally becomes an eternal comedy.
The future of life depends on the thinking and doing of life journey. The fate of your eternal, uppercase life is entirely dictated by the everyday choices you make during your short earthly trip. Every single action, every passing thought, and every intention is actively shaping your eternal, non-material structure right now. No pressure, right? But it really emphasizes the weight of our everyday choices. Because the framework insists that where you step today determines exactly where your eternal essence goes tomorrow, we really have to ask ourselves, are you caught up in the tragedy of temporary earthly possessions, or are you actively sublimating your non-material structure? What direction are your current actions actually taking you? Where will you move your steps? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope it gave you something profound to think about.